Hi, my name is Cameron Brooks, and today I'll be talking about Ebonics, also known as AAVE, code switching, and its influence in media and pop culture. If you've ever said things like period, it's given, or no cap, you've participated in a larger cultural and linguistic trend, even if you didn't realize it. These phrases are extremely common today, especially on social media. However, according to Crystal and others, many of these phrases actually come from African American vernacular English or AAVE. Honestly, most people don't even question where these phrases come from. We just hear them online, repeat them, and they become part of how we talk. But language doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It comes from specific communities and experiences. So, when we use these words without knowing their origins, we're missing a big part of their meaning. This raises an important question. Why is this language so widely used but not always recognized? In this presentation, I will explain what AAVE is, why it is culturally important, how it influences mainstream media, and why it deserves more recognition and respect. AVE stands for African American Vernacular English, and it is a structured and rule-governed language system. It has its own grammar, syntax, and pronunciation patterns. According to Baker Bell, AAVE is not just slang or incorrect English. It is a legitimate form of communication that developed within Black communities. What's important to understand is that AAVE isn't just a casual way of speaking. It's a complete linguistic system. That means it has patterns, rules, and structure just like standard English does. The only difference is how society views it. AAVE follows consistent linguistic rules, just like any other language. It is not random or unorganized. For example, certain sentence structures and verb patterns are used in consistent ways among speakers. Even though it might sound different to people unfamiliar with it, it still follows rules. This is what linguists mean when they say it's rule governed. So the idea that AAVE is incorrect is actually not based on how language works, it's based on perception. One of the biggest issues with AAVE is how it is perceived. Many people label it as broken English or unprofessional, but this is based on bias rather than fact. Baker Bell explains that these ideas are connected to linguistic racism, where certain ways of speaking are judged unfairly. These misconceptions don't just affect how people view the language, they affect how people are treated. If someone is judged as less intelligent or less professional just because of how they speak, that creates real consequences in school, jobs, and everyday interactions. AAVE has deep roots in African American history. It developed over time and was influenced by African linguistic traditions. According to the Garfield Messenger, it was shaped through experiences like slavery and segregation. AAVE developed as a way for people to communicate and connect, especially during times when Black communities were marginalized. So it's not just language, it's tied to history, struggle, and resilience. AAVE is also a form of cultural expression. It allows people to express identity, humor, emotion, and creativity. It helps build community and connection, and it continues to evolve over time. You can really see this in things like music, especially hip hop and R&B, where AAVE plays a big role in storytelling and creativity. It allows people to express themselves in ways that feel authentic and culturally connected. Today, AAVE is widely used in media, especially on platforms like TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. According to Aburi and Walcott, it is often rebranded as internet language. even though it originates from Black communities. Social media speeds this process up a lot. Before, language would spread slowly through communities, but now one viral video can introduce a phrase to millions of people overnight. That's why AAVE is so visible today. Many popular slang terms today come directly from AAVE. For example, "it's giving" is used to describe a vibe. "You ate that" means someone did something well, and "no cap" means no lie. I'm sure we've all heard or even used these phrases without thinking twice. That's how normalized they've become. But originally, these phrases had specific meanings and cultural context. As these phrases spread, they are often adopted by non-Black audiences and become mainstream. However, they are often disconnected from their original cultural meaning and treated as trends instead of part of a deeper linguistic system. When language becomes mainstream, it often loses its connection to the people who created it. It becomes just another trend instead of something meaningful. This leads into cultural appropriation. According to Somosky, people often use AAVE without understanding its meaning or cultural significance. It can be used for entertainment or trends, which can misrepresent the culture. The issue isn't just using the language, it's using it without understanding or respect. That's what turns into appropriation instead of appreciation. In many cases, Black creators are not given credit for the language they create and popularize. Instead, it is labeled as Gen Z slang or internet language, which removes it from its cultural origins. This lack of credit can be frustrating because the same language that is celebrated in some spaces is criticized in others, especially when used by Black speakers. There is also a double standard. When Black individuals use AAVE, it is often judged as unprofessional. But when non-Black individuals use the same language, it is often seen as trendy or funny. This double standard shows how language is not just about communication, it's about power and perception. Who is speaking matters just as much as what is being said. Because of these perceptions, many Black individuals engage in code switching. Code switching means changing how you speak depending on the environment or audience. Code switching isn't always a choice. It can feel like something people have to do in order to succeed or be accepted. According to McClooney and others, people code switch to avoid stereotypes, appear more professional, and fit into dominant environments. For example, in professional environments, people may feel like they have to change how they speak to be taken seriously or avoid being judged. However, code switching also has negative effects. It can create emotional stress, mental exhaustion, and make people feel like they are not being their authentic selves. Over time, this can become exhausting because it requires constant awareness of how you're speaking and how others might perceive you. It can feel like you're balancing two different identities. This issue matters because language is closely tied to identity. When AAVE is misunderstood or misused, it takes away from its cultural significance and reinforces inequality. This isn't just about language, it's about respect, identity, and fairness. To address this, we need to increase awareness about AAVE and its origins, give credit to Black creators, and respect different ways of speaking. Even small changes like acknowledging where phrases come from or being more mindful of how we use language can make a difference. In conclusion, AAVE has had a major influence on modern language and media, especially through social media. However, it is often used without proper recognition. Code switching shows the pressure individuals face because of these perceptions. Moving forward, it's important to not only recognize AAVE's influence, but also respect its origins. Language is powerful, and how we use it reflects how we view different cultures and communities. These are the sources I use for my research. Thank you for listening.